दोनों एक्सप्रेशन क्लियर हो गया. ये फादर ऑफ साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट एंड बेस्ट मैनेजमेंट इज द ट्रू साइंस. ये क्लियर है? कोई डाउट नहीं? ठीक. नेक्स्ट ब्रीफ लाइफ स्केच. ये तुम्हें पढ़ना है. Born in Germantown, Pennsylvania, March 20, 1856. Initial education, little bit of brief life sketch, so that you could understand that the theoretical contribution by F.W. Taylor, to what extent it was affected by his academic background or his family background or something. तो born in Germantown, the initial education France in Germany. इसमें कौन सी चीज सबसे important है? Qualified in Harvard entrance examination but could not pursue the study. Spelling mistake. Joined Enterprise Hydraulic Works of Philadelphia 1874. Joined Midwell Steel Company as a laborer है तो स्पेलिंग एरर तुम लोग करेक्ट कर लेना इसको. ठीक है. Joined as a, ये पॉइंट इंपॉर्टेंट है. मतलब he began his career as a laborer. That's why his theory of scientific management, you can say it is not based on library work, on intellectual work sitting in library. It is based on his first-hand experience. What he learned as a worker, as a laborer, then he becomes supervisor, chief engineer. So therefore, his first-hand experience is there in his principle of scientific management. So that gives a lot of credibility to his line of thinking, to his theory. So he began his career as a worker, as a laborer. That's why he is much better placed compared to many other scholars in his understanding of worker psychology. Sometimes, it is said that he was the first. His contribution is pioneer contribution. He was the first to understand labor psychology. So he began his career as a worker, as a laborer. So he could see on his own, what happens, why dispute takes place between the management and the workers, and what is expected of management from the side of workers and vice versa. What kind of problems workers do come across? Why is it that the workers fail to deliver, as per their potential? So you find that there's always a gap between the potential output and actual output. I discussed systematic soldering, natural soldering. I will discuss later on. So ये सारी चीजें हैं. वर्कर्स के क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. ठीक है. तो केवल प्रोडक्टिविटी पे काम करना, एफिशिएंसी बढ़ाना है, प्रोडक्टिविटी जो है उसको इम्प्रूव करना है, लेकिन वर्कर्स के बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं जिसको कई बार मैनेजमेंट एड्रेस नहीं कर पाता. एंड समटाइम्स वर्कर्स ऑल्सो फेल टू एड्रेस द मैनेजमेंट. सो only that person will be much better placed to deal with the problems. ठीक है. Who had worked or who has worked as a worker as well as the part of management. So that person will be better placed. This is the significance of the writings of Taylor's scientific management, because it is not based on just intellectual work in library. It is based on his first-hand experience. As I said earlier, that he demonstrated on the factory floor, the spirit of scientific management. So he began his career as a worker in 1878 and became chief engineer in 1884. In 1884, after completing his mechanical engineering, 1890, he became general manager of the investment company in Maine. और ये सब 1893, Taylor, the renowned consulting engineer. Later on, he became the renowned consulting, the engineer based in New York. His inventions: a steel hammer, a cutting tool, hydraulic power loading machine, etc., boring, turning machines, etc. So I discussed that even humblest of the humble tool, ठीक है, the hammer, was subjected to rigorous scrutiny. Then what should be the optimal size and the weight of the hammer? This is just to understand, to what extent the Taylor pursued the things related to scientific management, that there should not be wastage of resources. It is not only about preventing wastage of resources, but devising ways and means to bridge the gap between potential output and actual output. मतलब ये सारा स्पिरिट जो साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट का है, ये मेनली इससे कंसर्न है, टू ब्रिज द गैप बिटवीन पोटेंशियल आउटपुट एंड एक्चुअल आउटपुट. So wherever there is a wastage of resources, or wherever there is a resources are being wasted, or resources are not being properly utilized, why? Because you have not observed the things, you have not analyzed the thing properly, you have never shown much interest in improving the tools, techniques, method, and process. That's why scientific management calls for that investigation and inquiry. Clear? Development of scientific management, contextual background. To some extent I discussed it. Contextual background, the latter decades of 19th century. देखिए यहाँ पे सिर्फ जो इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट्स है बस वर्ड में, ग्रामर मत ढूंढना इसमें, ठीक है, कम से कम स्पेस में. तो latter decades of 19th century, a new industrial climate, search for a new managerial class to manage increasingly complex organization. beginning of a progressive movement to replace ad hocism in management by a new managerial paradigm characterizing an all-inclusive long-run approach to counter multiple problems and challenges. अब इसको पूरा समझो. पहले तुम देखो latter decades of 19th century. The latter decades of 19th century witnessed some important developments. Thanks to industrial revolution and scientific and technological developments, as I discussed earlier in my previous lecture, that many organizations, huge organizations had come into existence with giant machines, large number of workers. So internal environment of the organization, complexity of the work was of a level which was never seen in the past. So organizations had come into existence, but many organizations, most of them had started incurring loss. Why? Because you talk about technology, you talk about technical activities, things were very much complex. You talk about number of workers, much more than what it used to be earlier. But the management, the style of management or techniques of management had not witnessed any kind of, substantive development, any kind of improvement. It means organization structure-wise is very much complex. Activities are very much complex. But the tools and techniques of management, was age-old and antediluvian. So there was a kind of mismatch. So you cannot think of managing things efficiently in the organization if the overall environment, internal environment of the organization has undergone drastic changes, and the management techniques and the tools and the methods remain the age-old. So there was a kind of mismatch. So new supervisors, the supervisors who had learned the art or skill of management from their predecessors to manage small factories, on the basis of such skills, on the basis of such understanding to manage a small organization, they could hardly deal with the dynamics of the large and complex organization. So how to improve efficiency? And the absence of efficiency, if you fail to manage the things, it means internal operations of the organization were to be brought on more scientific lines. Some kind of orderliness, some kind of certainty, getting upon some kind of regulatory discipline was required to be enforced, but it was missing. It is again this backdrop, that you need to understand how a progressive movement, began in America, the beginning of a progressive movement to replace ad hocism in management by a new managerial paradigm. What does that mean? It means later decades of 19th century had witnessed all these developments, but the style of management was still obsolete. And that's why there was a kind of disjunction between what was expected of the management administration and what was actually, and this was the case not only with the private sector. In the government agencies also similar kind of problems were there. So organizations lacked, a well-researched and well-developed management paradigm or model. They were actually dealing with the challenges, in the organization on the basis of ad hocism, a temporary kind of thing. As and when you come across a problem, and you look for some some workable option and you deal with such problem. It's over. You are taking just a painkiller. जब कुछ हुआ तो एक painkiller ले लिया, फिलहाल काम खत्म. So ad hocism was something which characterized the management of such huge organizations in the latter decades of 19th century. So it was to be replaced by a more credible, a more impacting, scientifically designed model of management, which could control, regulate, which could manage the things on sustained basis over a long period of time. So latter decades of 19th century had witnessed a lot of ups and downs. Many organizations had actually incurred huge losses. Some organizations had collapsed. Other organizations were actually struggling how to improve efficiency, because different kinds of activities in the organization, given the complexity of the internal environment, this could hardly be managed by age-old management style. So they were looking for some kind of improvement, some kind of changes. It is again this backdrop that we need to understand the significance of this progressive movement which began there in America, beginning of a progressive movement to replace ad hocism. What was the objective? That we need to understand administration and management. We need to understand, we need to bring management on modern scientific lines so as to deal with the gravity of the problem. Something like this. So progressive movement, it began to replace ad hocism, by a more stable, a more credible, a more dependable, model of management based on scientific lines, something more permanent, something more stable. Because you cannot think of running an organization for long if you believe only, in painkillers. It means just as and when you come across a problem, you don't have a stable program. You don't have a well-defined structure. You have never studied the work and activities in the organization. Getting a point? You don't know how to, there's no understanding of how to sequence the work. So you have no understanding of work, there's no science of work, and you have no understanding of science of men who are to be appointed, and how to appoint persons, how to send right person to the right place, what should be the module of training, so how to train employees, how to place them, and what is supervision, and who will supervise, what does supervision mean, so it means there was a lot of clarity, there's lack of clarity regarding all such things. So what I mean to say, the latter decades of 19th century, organizations were undergoing this kind of problem. It is against this backdrop that we need to understand the significance of progressive movement that began. The objective was to develop a new managerial class, to understand management, and accordingly, we need to train people to become the good manager. So managers are required to be given training on scientific lines so that they could understand the dynamics of organization, they could manage the things efficiently. Point clear? So ad hocism was to be replaced by a more credible, a more stable, the model of management. Point clear? And if internal operations are well organized, it is well programmed, it is brought on scientific line, you apply the principles of division of work and specialization, you understand supervision, planning, execution properly organized, management on the one hand, workers on the other, and on the other hand, the equation of relationship has to be understood, how the work has to be divided. So demarcation has to be done, operational domain, jurisdiction, lot many things are there within the organization. All such things were missing. Some organizations had no idea about the cost of production. So they were not in a position to speak clearly what exactly is the cost of production, then how can you set the price? Getting a point? So organizations were just appointing people, at one other places without understanding the science of work and science of man. You have just appointed 500 workers, but have you ever examined the 500 workers? So, what is the required skill, and where are you going to appoint them? So, do you really need the workers of this level of skill? So the skilled workers, unskilled workers, then right person at the right place. You have no understanding of work. So how can you divide the work into meaningful components? Then for every component, you have to appoint appropriate person. So there is no understanding of work. I mean to say, science of work is not developed. And there is no science of men. You have no understanding, of the workers, how to elicit best of services from the workers. So everybody's going, you just appointed 500 workers, they are working, nobody is there to evaluate their performance. There's no clarity on their part, what to do, what not to do. Every day they come and some assignment is given to them, but they have to be kept engaged from 9 to 6 or something. So Taylor comes across this kind of disorderliness and chaotic condition on the factory floor, many organizations. Getting a point? So what I mean to say that this is the contextual backdrop. It is again this backdrop that Taylor and some other scholars, they became the part of this movement. So they started conducting research, and then the theory of scientific management was propounded. So it means Taylor's contribution has to be understood against this backdrop. ठीक है, इस फैक्ट्री को देखो जरा, ये फैक्ट्री फ्लोर है, वो चल रहा है उस वक्त, ठीक है, इसको जरा इमेजिन करो किस ढंग का मैनेजमेंट है. ये देखो ये वर्कर्स कहाँ देख रहे हैं, काम करना है, सोच रहा है कुछ और. ये ट्रॉली यहाँ चल रही, कभी किसी ने ध्यान दिया ही नहीं कि ये जो यहाँ तुम इतना सारा एरिया तुम बर्बाद कर रहे हो, ये ट्रॉली तुम ऊपर से भी ले सकते थे, मोनोरेल टाइप कुछ इस ढंग का ये कर सकते हैं. किसी वर्कर का ड्रेस देखो, ये हीरो बने कहाँ घूम रहे हैं, इसका ड्रेस कुछ अलग है, इसका ड्रेस कुछ अलग है, इतने फैले हुए ड्रेस को पहन के मशीन ट्रॉली यहाँ पे खड़ा है, ठीक है. बाकी वर्कर्स देखो, कोई काम करे कोई नहीं. इसमें कई वर्कर्स तो ऐसे हैं जो वहां भगे हुए हैं. तो भाई तुम मशीन के पास रहना, ठीक है. हम देखेंगे कई वर्कर्स जो है वो भगे हुए हैं, कोई ऐसा है जो आया ही नहीं है, और यही व्यक्ति जो है 3 बार घूम करके 3 लोगों का पी लगा दिया है. सामने वाला पकड़ ही नहीं पा रहा है कि ये ऐसे कैप लगा के होता ही रखे हुए, मतलब कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ढंग से नहीं है. मशीन नंबर 1, मशीन नंबर 2 कहाँ पे, ट्रॉली इसी में चल रही है, ठीक है. कुछ नहीं, कितना पावर कंजम्पशन हो रहा है, इन सब किसी बात से क्या कोई दूसरा रास्ता हो सकता है जिससे कि पावर कंजम्पशन को रोका जाए? क्या ये तुमने कभी इसकी ऑडिटिंग की है, कभी एग्जामिन किया है कि तुम्हें एक्चुअली 2000 वर्कर्स की जरूरत है ही नहीं, यू डोंट नीड 2000 वर्कर्स, ठीक है. तुम्हारा तो काम आराम से 1400 वर्कर्स में हो जाएगा, तुम 600-700 वर्कर्स फालतू रखे हुए हो. ऐसे बहुत तरह की बातें हैं. सो there is no understanding of work, science of work or science of men, technique, method, process. You are just continuing with the things as they were, with little bit of improvement or little bit of change. Point clear? And that kind of changes are not brought by you. You are forced to bring such changes. So this was the kind of condition. No cost consciousness, no understanding of the science of work. There is no science of work. There is no development of science of work or science of men, and there is no coordination. There's not. It's a very poor coordination between workers on the one hand and management on the other. Point clear? So goals are not very much. They don't have goal-oriented kind of approach. So this was a kind of situation. Then the Taylor comes, as a ray of hope. The Taylor scientific management is all about doing away with this kind of inconsistency, doing away with this kind of infirmities or the problems on the factory floor of the organization. Point clear? देखो अब इसको लाइन को पढ़ो एकदम क्लियर है. Later decades of 19th century, a new industrial climate. ठीक है. Search for a new managerial class. There is a search for a new managerial class to manage increasingly complex organizations. It means it was realized that with old managers or the old techniques of management will not work in the new organization. So beginning of a progressive movement. Why? To replace ad hocism in management. Ad hocism management by a new managerial paradigm characterizing an all-inclusive long-term approach. So ad hocism was to be replaced by a new management model with long-term approach based on deep understanding of the technique, method, process, technology, how to manage the things in a better way, based on some kind of scientific research. So a credible and more stable model of management was to be developed. It is again this backdrop that you can understand the contribution of R.W. Taylor and several other scholars. Clear? Significant contributors: Henry Metcalfe and Robert Townend, Unifical System of Management. Then Townend, the engineer, as an economist. These are some intellectual contributions prior to R.W. Taylor that inspired Taylor. Inspired by Townend, Taylor directed all his efforts toward the development of scientific management. He was also inspired by this writing, The Engineer as an Economist. Engineer as an economist. There is a link between science and economization of things. By applying scientific spirit, getting a point, investigation, inquiry, by improving the tools and techniques, subjecting things to scrutiny in terms of cause and effect, discovering the best possible technique, method and process, you can economize operation. Points clear? So you can economize operations, you can achieve efficiency and economy, by the way of or by applying scientific spirit, scientific temperament. So engineer as an economist. Taylor was also an engineer. So that's why he had a kind of this very scientific disposition, and he succeeded in applying that scientific spirit to improve the things. Taylor's contribution: piece rate system, shop management, the art of cutting metals, the principles of scientific management, not S, scientific management. Okay. Scientific management. I have already discussed the word science. Discuss science. Science is most concerned with systematic study of any subject matter. Clear systematic study of any subject matter so as to unravel that pattern of interdependency and that phenomena, to understand the things in cause and effect kind of, the relationship. Okay, and then you can claim that you have discovered the science of that subject matter. Point clear? So it means things become very much clear and discernible to you. Okay, you get the answers pertaining to what, how, and why with clarity. Then only you can say that you have discovered the science of that thing. Clear? So scientific management, it is a scientific method of study which is used to optimize, scientific systematic method of study which is used to optimize the way in which tasks are performed, optimizing the way. So you have discovered the ways and means of methodology, point clear, to do something, okay, in the best possible manner. Going beyond that and lesser than that, both of them will be detrimental to the interest. Point clear? The optimal, then the way. So to optimize the way in which tasks are performed, thus improving the labor productivity. Clear? So So whatever activity you are carrying out, whatever work you are doing, so there can be a best way or the optimum way. There's an optimization of the method or technique or process to do the things. Getting a point? That a hammer. So you have optimized it. It means out on the basis of research, you have discovered that 3.5 kg or 2.5 kg is the optimal point. Beyond which, if you increase the weight, so diminishing returns will apply. And less than that, again, there will be inefficiency. There will be some kind of deficit. So you find that appropriate point where from the maximum productivity can be accomplished. Getting a point? Optimizing the way. Then there's it is an art of knowing exactly. Scientific management is an art of knowing exactly what you want your men to do, and then seeing that they do it in the best manner based on efficiency, economy and productivity. In pursuance of efficiency, economy and productivity, इसको break करो. इसका मतलब क्या निकल रहा है? मतलब कि whether it is a work or men. So you have worked a lot in discovering the science of work, that what exactly the work is, what are the various components in this work, and how this can be accomplished, which technique, method, process will be applied, what kind of person will be applied. You know the work, you know the men, you bring them together and then you get it done, with efficiency and economy. Scientific management. Okay, so if you forget everything, so to दो बातें याद रखोगे, science of work and science of men, and to bring them together, the better coordination. This is the soul of scientific management. So you need to develop science of work, you need to develop science of men, and then whatever you have understood, you need to bring them together. Okay? And then coordination between management and workers. It may be accompanied by, or it should be accompanied by, some kind of mental revolution, change in the attitude. Okay? This is the core content of scientific management. Unclear? Also, when I say science of work, what does that mean? Science of work. ये तो science के definition में छिपा हुआ है. Science of work means that you need to identify different types of work which are carried out in your organization. Every organization comes into existence in furtherance of some goal and objective, to accomplish some goals and objective. Point is clear? Then that objective is broken down into sub-objectives. And if every single part of objective or a sub-objectives are, accomplished at different levels, then ultimate objective will be accomplished. Then to carry out, to accomplish these sub-objectives, you are required to design different kinds of works and activities. So it means an organization is an ensemble of large number of activities. Large or complex organization may have heterogeneous activities of different kinds. So different kind of activities are being carried out by different groups, different departments. So you have discovered something, some kind of rules, regulation, normally you have learned, from your predecessors in the past, you continue with that. That is not scientific management. So no, scientific management means that first of all, you need to develop science of work. It means every single work should be subjected to rigorous scrutiny. That what kind of work or what kind of activity it is, how this activity, how this work is accomplished, what kind of tool, technique, method, process you are using for that. Getting a point? Then human resource, the skilled workers or unskilled workers, who is required to accomplish this work. So it means when a particular work is broken down into various components, you take any work, accounting, auditing, or technical activities, what do you think it is? So the work is broken down into meaningful components. And then you see that how to accomplish, how to do, and how to deal with every single component. To deal with different components, what kind of technique, what kind of method, what kind of process, what kind of instrument implements which are required, what kind of the human resource is required. So this is the work or this is an activity for which you need this kind of person. This kind of person, this much of physical energy is required. And this is the level of IQ which is required for that. So and a person has to be trained, in dealing with such things, then only this work can be accomplished. And to accomplish this work, generally this much of time is required. Reasonable, amount of time. In general, it requires 2 or 3 days, or in general 2 or 3 hours to do that work. And this is a technique, method, and process. This is one of the best ways of doing, such thing. So when you have worked on different aspects of the work, in terms of what, how, and why, think how this work has to be done, what kind of work it is, what kind of skill is required, how much of the resources are required, how much time is required, what is the level of fatigue and innovation, so all such things, best motion, best the technique, process, how to accomplish this work with the minimum input, a least amount of time, money, energy, and you get the work done. So you discovered the best way of doing it. So then you can say that you have discovered the science of work. कुछ नहीं, तुम्हें रटने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है, सिर्फ ये देखो कोई वर्क है. साइंस ऑफ वर्क का मतलब ये कि उस वर्क को पूरी तरह से समझ लेना, एकदम अच्छी तरह से समझ लेना. इसलिए तुम देखते हो कई सारी महिलाएं ऐसी होती हैं किचन में, वो दूसरों के मुकाबले ज्यादा एफिशिएंट है. 1 घंटे के अंदर वो सब बना के निकल जाएंगे. कहने का मतलब उन्होंने कुकिंग जो है उसके साइंस को समझ रखा है, किसी चीज को बनाने का तरीका क्या होगा, साइंस को समझ रखा है, उसके साइंस को. मतलब ये एक वर्क है, तुम्हें ऐसा करना है, इतने कंपोनेंट तुम्हें ये चीजें बनानी है, ठीक है. तुम यहाँ से शुरुआत करोगे, ये करोगे, तब तक वो काम उधर कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, तब तक इसे उनसे सीक्वेंसिंग वगैरह उन्होंने सब कर रखा है, ठीक है. इसीलिए उसी काम को वो कम समय में और बहुत अच्छे से कर लेती है, लेकिन दूसरे लोग शायद वैसा नहीं कर पाएंगे. साइंस ऑफ वर्क, ठीक है. किसी बहुत बड़े बड़े एग्जाम्पल की जरूरत नहीं है, सिंपल किसी टेलरिंग शॉप में, टेलर शॉप, उसके किसी टेलर के यहाँ जाओ, देखो उसके शॉप पे उसने अपने वर्कशॉप पे कैसे सब चीजें कर रखी है. उसने पूरे टेलरिंग के काम को अच्छी तरह समझा है कि एक सूट है वो स्टिच करना है, ठीक है, तो उसमें कितने कंपोनेंट हो सकते हैं. उसने उसको बहुत ही मीनिंगफुल कंपोनेंट्स में ब्रेक किया, ठीक है. कारण उसने साइंस ऑफ वर्क मतलब उसने समझ लिया कि इस काम को करने में कितना समय लगता है, इस काम को करने के लिए किस ढंग के स्किल की आवश्यकता है, किस ढंग के पर्सन को चाहिए, तो मतलब कैसे पर्सन की आवश्यकता है इसमें पड़ेगी. तो उसने उस पूरे काम को, एक सूट अगर स्टिच करना है उसके हिसाब से 4 कंपोनेंट्स या 5 कंपोनेंट्स है, उसके हिसाब से उसने लोगों को अपॉइंट कर रखा है जो जिसमें स्किलफुली या वैसी ट्रेनिंग दे रखी है, और उसे पता है कि रीजनेबल टाइम क्या होगा, 7 डेज, 6 डेज या 3 डेज, 4 डेज, उसने स्टैंडर्ड भी तय कर रखा है. तो उसने उस वर्क के साइंस को अच्छी तरह समझ लिया है. साइंस, जब तुम एक वर्क को अच्छी तरह समझ लोगे, उसके डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स को समझ लोगे कि हर एक कंपोनेंट की रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या है, तब तो एक काम हुआ. यू हैव अंडरस्टूड द साइंस ऑफ वर्क. अब उस वर्क के अनुसार तुम्हें लोगों को अपॉइंट करना होगा, दैट इज साइंस ऑफ मैन. सो रिक्रूटमेंट, अपॉइंटमेंट, ट्रेनिंग, ये सारी चीजें, these things are required to be scientifically designed, organized. You need to work on that what kind of person, what kind of the worker or laborer, what kind of person is required for that particular work, what is the required skill. And if the person is deficient in terms of this skill, then through training can we compensate for that deficiency. Okay, so science of work, on the one hand, first of all understand the work, the dynamics of work, various components in it. Okay, what is required to accomplish different components, what, how and why, and then on the other hand you develop the science of man. Then for different kind of work, different kind of persons are required. So we need to recruit persons with this much of qualification, and this should be the matter of this should be the method of training. Okay, then the right person that you have selected, right person is placed, right person is sent to the right place. So there has to be conjunction between what is the demand of work and what can be offered by the person who is being appointed there. So okay, if there is disjunction between the two, are getting a point? This should be detrimental to the interest of worker and the work, and by consequence the organization. So sending right person to right place. So first of all you need to understand work and workplace, and then only you can think of the right person. And once you appointed the right person, and then you send the right person to the right place, you know that this is the position, this is the nature of work for which this kind of person is required, and Mr. A has all such qualifications. He is much better placed compared to others to discharge such responsibilities. So that's why Mr. A is being sent to that position. So science of work and then science of men, it restricts to a great extent the possibilities of wastage of resources. Cost of production increases because of number of reasons which may not be clearly visible. That you think that is the best of the tools, technologies are there in the organization, physical environment is also so much encouraging, everything is so nice. So why, what is it that actually interfering negatively, with the production and productivity? Why? What is it? So it may be invisible, the factor. It may not be clearly visible that you have appointed the person, even though the persons are talented. But the persons have not been, your workers, employees, they have not been properly appointed. So right person at wrong place will bring negative result. So right person at right place. And right person at right place is possible only when you have discovered the science of place or work. Different kind of work. I would say different places, different kind of work. You have understood that. You have developed the science of that. Okay, and then only science of men would work. So sending right person to right place. In this way, you can improve efficiency and economy in the organization. Okay, and this way you can reduce cost of production and you can achieve price competitiveness. ठीक है, बट इसके अलावा भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. साइंस ऑफ वर्क एंड साइंस ऑफ मैन, ये तो प्राइमरी रिक्वायरमेंट है. साइंस ऑफ वर्क एंड साइंस ऑफ मैन. But after that, you need, very good coordination between management on the one hand and workers on the other. There should be clarity regarding their operational domain. What is supposed to be done by management and what is supposed to be done by the workers. मेरी बात समझ गए? So very good relationship between the management and workers should be based on trust and confidence. But this trust and confidence will not come unless there is a clarity regarding what is expected of workers and what is expected of management. The power, authority, responsibility things are clearly divided. Workers have been provided with the required means, mechanism, material resources, tools, technology, everything. Then only you can develop good relationship, and then organization will achieve high level of efficiency. Point clear? So science of work, science of men, and then bringing them together, management and workers. Science of work, science of men, right person at right place, and then good relationship between management and workers. And if it is accompanied by mental revolution, nothing like it. I will discuss later on, but mental revolution is also required. Mental revolution means the change in the attitude of workers, in the attitude of management. Taylor says that instead of constantly fighting over the increase in the wages or the increase in productivity, because management keep exerting pressure on the workers to improve the level of efficiency or to improve productivity, and the workers keep asking for increase in wages. It's a very common thing that Taylor had witnessed. So Taylor said that despite reflecting the spirit of scientific management, it will not be so much success. Scientific management is not just about working on tool, technique, method, process, improving. Despite all such improvements, science of work, science of men you have developed, scientific management will fail to accomplish the desired goals and objectives if it is not accompanied by mental revolution, change in attitude. It means for some time, management and workers, they should decide not to focus on division of work. They should focus only on work. A division of profit or surplus, they should focus more on work. According to Taylor, mental revolution means revolution is not an ordinary change. Revolution is a significant change which has taken place in any sphere of life or activity. Getting a point? Revolution is not an ordinary change. It is different from evolution. When a short span of time, significant changes do take place regarding something, any activity or any aspect of life, with long-term implications, then only it qualifies to be called revolution. So mental revolution means it is not an ordinary, but long-term changes. There are significant changes, mental revolution, significant changes in the mentality, in the attitude of the workers and management. If you continue with the same trend that the workers keep demanding for increase in wages and the management keep exerting pressure for more efficiency and productivity, so it will create a kind of vicious cycle. You will keep moving. This friction, conflict will never allow the organization to achieve the level of efficiency which it can accomplish. So that will be dangerous. We need to break this cycle. So mental revolution means that you need to shed off this conventional line of thinking for some time. Just forget about surplus. Just forget about it. Division of surplus. The more of wages, more of profit. Forget about that. Both of you, management and workers, both of you should focus on work and work only. And if you focus only on work, the best way is possible to do the work. How to achieve efficiency? Both of them are equally interested and committed to the cause of efficiency. After some times, it will generate so much of surplus that the question of division of surplus will end up losing its relevance. Point clear? So mental revolution. ये इतनी बातों को तुम याद रखोगे. Science of scientific management is about science of developing science of man, science of work, bringing them together, better coordination between management and workers, mental revolution. ये पूरा scientific management नहीं है. ये कम से कम इतनी बात याद रखोगे. आगे हम डिस्कस करेंगे. पॉइंट क्लियर? इतनी बातों में सब ये स्पिरिट है साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट का, बिल्कुल सोल, मतलब साइंस ऑफ मैन, साइंस ऑफ वर्क. यहाँ तक क्लियर? मतलब साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट में एक तरह का कॉन्फिडेंस है, यू नो, ठीक है, किससे क्या काम करवाना है, देखो ये, तो ये सब क्लियर है। ए काइंड ऑफ इम्पर्सनल सेटअप एंड अरेंजमेंट, ये बात समझे, इम्पर्सनल सेटअप, कोई पर्सन किसी के पीछे नहीं भाग रहा है, तुम ये करना है वो करना है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं। तुमने उस वर्क को समझ लिया है, तुमने उस वर्क पे एक्सपेरिमेंट किया है, उसके स्टैंडर्ड तुमने तय कर दिए हैं, सारे वर्कर्स को स्टैंडर्ड पता है, उनको ये भी पता है कि आपने अगर स्टैंडर्ड को कंफर्म किया तो यू विल गेट द एवरेज पेमेंट, जो पेमेंट फिक्स होगा। इफ यू आर डूइंग बेटर देन एवरेज और स्टैंडर्ड यू विल गेट बोनस, और तुम्हें कभी कभी पनिश भी किया जा सकता है, यू विल गेट लेस देन what is meant for general production average, less than average payment, ठीक है। तो ये तुमने ये सब तय कर रखा है, इसलिए वर्कर्स को तो पीछे किसी, मतलब दिस साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट इन अ वे इज अबाउट impersonal, self-sustaining, impersonal kind of management. Impersonal. So there is no human to human control. You control things, you control human beings at work, not by the intervention, not so much by the intervention of human beings, but you control the workers by an impersonal entity which is deployed in terms of standardization of tool, technique, method, process, rules, regulations. It means on the basis of research, on the basis of experiment, you have set the standards. Most of the things have been shared with the workers, so they know very well that nobody is going after you. So this is the standard. If you are deficient in performance, you will be punished. If you are efficient, you perform better than standard, they will get bonus. Point clear? Otherwise, average performance, average payment, something like this. Because nobody is going after, and then evaluation will take place. If you are not showing any sign of improvement, then after some time आपको जाना पड़ेगा. सिंपल, मेरे आपके पीछे दौड़ना भागना ऐसा कुछ नहीं है हमारा. पॉइंट क्लियर? मतलब कि इम्पर्सनल सेटअप है, एंड वॉट एवर इज इम्पर्सनल, ठीक है, इज मोर लास्टिंग इन नेचर. पॉइंट समझ में आ गया? ठीक है, क्योंकि एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का स्ट्रेंथ ये होता है कि वो किसी पर्सन पे बेस्ड नहीं है, ठीक है, इट इज एन इम्पर्सनल एंटिटी इज देयर. So impersonal system means and mechanism is there to control. Scientific management includes scientific study and analysis of work. हमने पहले कहा था science of work. देखो फिर scientific selection and training of employees, understanding science of man. So you are making selection based on certain criterions. You are not just allowing any Tom, Dick and Harry to come to the organization, but I need 500 workers. 500 workers. What kind of workers? Okay, for what position? Which position? What kind of work? So you need to understand, you need to develop science of work. By it demands scientific study and analysis of work. Then you can develop science of work. Okay, then scientific selection and training of employees, standardization of raw materials, equipments, and working conditions. Standardization, you set standards. It means workers are not allowed to carry, different kind of hammers as per their whims fancy, as per their habitual method or something. No, that is not allowed. Standardization, because on the basis of research. On the basis of research findings, you design a tool. You design a hammer, for example, and the same hammer is shared with all, so that performance evaluation becomes easier. Unclear? And then you can optimize the performance of workers, laborers. There was something standardization of tools, standardization of technique, method, process. इस काम को ऐसे करना है, तुम कैसे कर रहे हो? सर हमने सोचा पहले ये कर लेते, वो आपके सोचने से नहीं होगा. ट्रेनिंग में आपको बता दिया गया ये एक स्टैंडर्ड तरीका है, ठीक है. पहले आप येलो पोर्शन कंप्लीट करेंगे, सेकंड आप इस पे काम करेंगे, थर्ड इस पे. नहीं सर हमने शुरू से सर ऐसे ही सीखा था, तो अपने घर चले जाइए, जहाँ सीखा था वहीं पे काम कीजिए. कहने स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन मतलब यहाँ लेबोरेटरी में बैठ के हम लोग पागल हैं, हम लोग इन सब पे काम करके रिसर्च करके ये तरीका अपनाया है सब. और ये तुमने क्या पहन रखा है? हवाई चप्पल पहन के घूम रहे हैं? तुम्हारा बूट कहाँ है? सर मैं ऐसे ही कंफर्टेबल हूँ. हम कंफर्टेबल नहीं है. यहाँ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जितने लोग भी काम कर रहे हैं मशीन में, इस मशीन पे काम करने का मतलब ये आउटफिट इसके लिए बिल्कुल ये स्टैंडर्ड है, ये तुम्हें करना ही पड़ेगा, ऐसे ग्लव्स पहनना पड़ेगा, ये अपनी मर्जी से नहीं चलेगा. तुम देखे थे पुराने वाले पिक्चर में, वो कहाँ देख रहे हैं, कहाँ मशीन पे खन का कोई सिर पे नहीं है, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. हर किसी को पता होना चाहिए क्या काम उसे करना है और कैसे करना है, ठीक है. टेक्निक, मेथड, प्रोसेस, हर चीज का स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन किया हुआ है. मतलब तुम एक हैमर भी अपने घर से नहीं ला सकते, ये मेरे दादाजी की धरोहर है, समझे, वो हैमर यूज कर, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. यहाँ पे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो हैमर डिजाइन किया गया वही हैमर तुम्हें यूज करना है, ठीक है. जो भी है चलो ठीक है. स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल्स, इक्विपमेंट्स एंड वर्किंग कंडीशन. वर्किंग कंडीशंस का भी स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन है. वर्किंग कंडीशन, जो फिजिकल इन्वायरमेंट है वो भी, कि मशीन्स वगैरह जो लगी हुई है, फिर एग्जॉस्ट फैंस वगैरह तुमने जहाँ जहाँ लगा रखे हैं, कहने का मतलब ये जो है कि फिजिकल इन्वायरमेंट, वो तो टूल, टेक्निक, मेथड, प्रोसेस, स्पेस, हर चीज पे काम हो रखा है। इस काम को करने के लिए इतना स्पेस चाहिए, इस काम के लिए ऐसा टेबल चाहिए, वो ओवरऑल जो पूरा इन्वायरमेंट है, ठीक है, कितने वर्कर्स कहाँ पे काम करेंगे, ठीक है, किस सेगमेंट के बाद कौन सा सेगमेंट चालू होगा, ये सारी चीजें, मतलब आसपास इक्विपमेंट, फर्नीचर्स वगैरह जो भी कुछ है, हर चीज का स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन क्या हुआ है। हर चीज में कोई भी चीज ऐसी नहीं है कि वो इसलिए वैसी है क्योंकि ऐसे ही हमेशा रही है। इससे टेलर को बहुत ज्यादा चिढ़ है, बहुत ज्यादा, कि ऐसा क्यों है, तो तुम्हें आंसर देना पड़ेगा। ऐसा इसलिए सर कि ये इजीली एक्सेसिबल है, मतलब सब लोग आएंगे तो इसमें टाइम वेस्टेज नहीं होगा, फटाफट ये काम हो जाएगा, गुड। और तुमने अगर ऐसा कह दिया कि बस ऐसा इसीलिए, तुम एक रोलर लेके जा रहे हो, हमने कल बताया था, तो टेलर पूछेंगे रोलर को तुम पुश कर रहे हो या रोलर को पुल कर रहे हो, तो सर ये तो रोलर मतलब रोलर ऐसा चलाना है जैसे भी लेके जा रहे हैं। टेलर की दुनिया में ऐसा नहीं चलेगा, ठीक है। फिर तुम्हें बताएंगे कि तुम जब पुश कर रहे हो, ठीक है, तो कितनी एनर्जी लग रही है, और जब पुल करोगे तो कितनी एनर्जी, इसमें एनर्जी का वेस्टेज बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है, तो तुम इसको पुल करोगे, तुम इसे पुश नहीं करोगे। फिजिकल साइंस वगैरह उससे रिलेटेड जो है वो सारी चीजें हैं, ठीक है। तो कहने का मतलब फैक्ट्री फ्लोर कहीं भी कोई भी एक एक्टिविटी ऐसी नहीं दिखेगी कि जो बस वैसे ही हो रही है। स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन ऑफ टूल्स एंड टेक्निक्स, टेक्नोलॉजी, मेथड एंड प्रोसेस, इवन द फिजिकल एनवायरमेंट। यहाँ पर लेवल ऑफ टेम्परेचर इतना, यहाँ पर कम से कम लेवल टेम्परेचर मेंटेन होना चाहिए, यहाँ पे लेवल ऑफ टेम्परेचर जो काफी कम होना चाहिए, तो ये काम उसमें ढंग से नहीं हो पाएगा, ठीक है। फर्नेस पे ये है, इससे अधिक ज्यादा टेम्परेचर बढ़ना नहीं चाहिए, इसको ऐसे कंट्रोल करेंगे, ठीक है। ये रेड लाइन है, इसके बाद अगर कुछ ऐसा, मतलब हर चीज बहुत सोची हुई और समझी हुई है। लगता है बहुत भारी साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट सब इतना नहीं, बस थोड़ा सा दिमाग अप्लाई करो, एकदम सिंपल है। समझ गए। हमने एक जो पहले बताया था ना कि व्हाट, हाउ एंड व्हाई का आंसर अगर नहीं मिल रहा है तो कहीं ना कहीं चीजें उतनी साइंटिफिक नहीं है, सिंपल एकदम, बिल्कुल। उसका जो है रीजनेबल रेम्युनरेशन टू एम्प्लॉइज, ठीक है, ये भी साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट इंक्लूड्स रीजनेबल रेम्युनरेशन, क्योंकि एम्प्लॉइज को तुम मोटिवेट कैसे करोगे, उनको रेम्युनरेशन जो है रीजनेबल उनका होना चाहिए। इट इज एन इकोनॉमिकल मेथड विच मेक्स द बेस्ट पॉसिबल यूज बाय इंटीग्रेशन एंड कोऑर्डिनेशन ऑफ अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेज। तो साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट इज अबाउट सिंक्रोनाइज्ड एफर्ट, ठीक है। यू मैक्सिमाइज आउटपुट with the same amount of input. Why? How? Because inputs are brought in a very well designed, and well cogitated kind of rhythm. बहुत अच्छी तरह से सोच समझ के तुमने चीजों को जोड़ा है, जिससे कि तुमने डुप्लीकेशन ऑफ एफर्ट को अवॉइड कर दिया, जिससे तुमने फ्रिक्शन की पॉसिबिलिटीज को कम कर दिया, ठीक है, और उस पर तुमने क्या किया कि प्रोडक्टिविटी को भी तुमने बढ़ा दिया, ठीक है। सो इट इज अबाउट मैक्सिमाइजिंग आउटपुट विद द सेम अमाउंट ऑफ इनपुट, ठीक है। साइंस ऑफ वर्क, साइंस ऑफ मैन, ठीक है। स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन ऑफ टूल, टेक्निक, मेथड, प्रोसेस, फिजिकल एनवायरमेंट, रीजनेबल रेम्युनरेशन एंड डेवलपिंग द वेज विच आर इकोनॉमिकल and efficient in nature. The final outcome is also satisfactory.